Hello friends, today let's check out some of the common issues that Elasticsearch users face when they set up the Elasticsearch cluster, and it might be in production setup as well. I would highly recommend you to set up Elasticsearch monitoring to identify the some of the common issues that users face. I have made a separate video on how to set up Elasticsearch monitoring, but the setup could slightly be different depending on the environment on which you will be setting up the Elasticsearch monitoring. For example, in case of production setup, we will have to enable the security. Please refer to the official website of Elasticsearch for recommendations on the setup. Okay, let's begin. So let's quickly check out some of the important stats that Elasticsearch monitoring provides. Let's first check out the nodes stats. When you select any of the nodes, you see information about the JVM, IOPS, system load, segment count, etc. And if you switch to information about GCs and request rate, okay, some of the advanced stats. So depending on these stats, you might have some actionable items. For example, if the request rate is spiking, you might have to implement the rate limiting as well in your application to reduce the request rate. So it will show both indexing and search request rate. Let's go to the index stats. So here as well, you can see here it will show the indexing rate as well. You can specifically pinpoint which index is getting more index or which index is getting more search rate. Depending on this, you can try to rate limit those indices, because this might be the culprit. This is one thing that you need to check. And the next thing you probably should check is the logging, Elasticsearch logging. That will reveal so much more information about the issue. You might be getting some warnings repeatedly in your Elasticsearch logs. And the next thing probably you should do in your production setup is to enable these slow queries. So you can check out the link. I will put this link in the description, how to enable these slow logs. This is on the index level, so you can basically set different thresholds. If the request is taking more than 10 seconds, you can log that separately and check out what kind of queries are those. So depending on that, you might have to modify your mapping, or maybe the fields that you'll be indexing, or the queries itself. If you are making a regex query on some of the fields, which is very huge, it might take some time. So those kind of issues you can fix using these slow queries. So apart from this, we'll quickly discuss 3-4 very common commands or very useful commands to analyze some of the issues. First one we'll be checking out is thread pool. Thread pool will show you the, so this is basic setup that I have done, Elasticsearch, Kibana and metric bit for monitoring. Let's hit our Elasticsearch node with thread pool. So it will show you what are the different threads that are allocated. So here in the official documentation, you check about the different arguments that I have given this command. A means the active threads. So right now the most of the threads are 0, but in the production setup you will see the values here. And the second value Q is the buffer size or the tasks that are waiting to be executed. Ideally this should be 0. If you see some values here, that means some of the tasks are waiting in the queue to be executed. That means either your server capacity could be low, or you might be receiving more requests corresponding to the server that you have allocated. So you might have to scale up your server, or you might have to you might have to add one more node to the cluster. So depending on your use case, you might have to take some action based on that. And QS is the queue size, the total number of requests that each of these threads can hold. For some of this, it's dynamic, or -1 probably means that it cannot hold any request in the buffer memory, so there won't be any buffer memory allocated for that thread pool. Next, the last one, R, refers to the rejected count. So if you have any values here, that means the issue is critical. You will have to take action on that, otherwise it might be rejecting some. For example, in the search thread pool, if the rejection count is there, that means some of the requests are failing. Alright, so you might have to take action for that. So next command that we'll be checking is allocation explain. This will tell you if there are any unallocated shards. It will tell you the reason also, and also it will tell you how to fix the issue as well for the most common issues. So here, if you see, there are different sections here. This one of the shard is unallocated. As you can see, it will give you the explanation for that as well. So why the shard is unallocated? Elasticsearch isn't allowed to allocate this shard to any of the nodes in the cluster. Choose a node which you expect this shard to be allocated, and you might have some more additional information also. So a copy of this shard already allocated to this node, so it cannot allocate the replica also. So obviously this is expected because we have single node in this cluster, so it could not allocate the shard to the same node. Okay, so and you might find a reason, something like the disk is not sufficient, or it has reached the watermark level. Okay, so all those information, based on the details, you might have to take a corresponding action. Alright, next important command is hot threads. This will also reveal some of the important information about the tasks or the hot threads. Okay, the port is 9200. Alright, so you get information something like this. So depending on your issue, you might have some useful information from the hot threads endpoint as well. Next command is cluster settings. So this is another important command to get your, okay, so I need to change the port to 9200. Okay, so this this shows all the settings that are enabled in your cluster, including the default settings. Okay, so here you can check the watermark level. Okay, so you can increase the watermark level also. So if you have put any extra settings on the cluster, you can make sure that those settings are reflected here. So I have provided the include defaults true, which means display all the default settings as well. Alright, so these cluster settings you can check out. So this might hint you some of the important information about the issue as well. Then the last command that we'll be checking is tasks. It will show you the timing of the task as well, how long the task is running. Alright, so yeah, these are in micros, and this is H for hours. Alright, so this will also show you some of the important information about the task that Elasticsearch is currently performing. That's it, guys. These are some of the important commands that we use to troubleshoot Elasticsearch issues. And if you find it useful, please hit a thumbs up, or if you have any other commands to share, or in your production if you face any issues, and if you have any interesting story to tell, please do comment. I will check that out for sure. Thanks a lot for watching.